Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stacey West Preview Show. I am your host, Jake Tong, here for another Sky Bet League One preview. Sheffield Wednesday coming to Sincil Bank or the LNER Stadium on Saturday. Before we get into the preview, just make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 subs on the YouTube channel before the end of 2022. Make sure you go listen to the podcast. It'll be out on Friday as well. Anyway, football. Sheffield Wednesday, so we've got Adam Eccles from the SWFC Armed Forces Twitter page. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd sort of let you know my emotions before we started recording. I'm a little bit terrified going into Saturday's game. Just basically, we had those 2 years sort of not going to games last year. You were probably glad that you weren't in the stadiums, but are you glad that you're now being able to go to Hillsborough and follow Wednesday home and away after the last 2 years that we've sort of just had?
I am. As much as our performances last year ended up getting us relegated, I actually feel with the support that we've got as a club, we might have avoided that had we had fans last year. So as much as we were rubbish, I'm gutted I didn't get to go last year. But definitely this year, a new league, a new year, a load of new players. As much as we had Darren Moore for a while last season, he feels like a new manager this year because he's got his own players. It's a fresh start. You want to get the fans behind him. So, yeah, I'm loving going back.
And I can imagine as a big club coming down a division, you want to be down here for 1 year and 1 year only, but it's quite nice doing the tour of all the new grounds. So I can imagine Crewe, plays teams like that, Cheltenham, there'll all be new grounds for supporters from your football club.
Yeah, massively. So I've only actually been a season ticket holder for about 4 years. Before that, I had other activities on the Saturday that precluded me from being able to go to games. But yeah, now I've been able to attend different grounds, different stadiums, new sites, meeting new fan bases. It's been a pleasure, to be honest. I'd prefer it to have not happened because it means that we got relegated for it to happen. But yeah, it's been great. I've loved it. I think there's a certain character that you get with a lot of these grounds in the lower leagues, like Sincil Bank, where it's not a soulless ball. I think we're still blessed with Hillsborough with the fact that it's got an atmosphere, it's got a history. And whether you look at it from a good point of view with Pelly playing there in the history and other aspects like that, or the bad point of view with the Hillsborough disaster, there's still a character. So I love it. It's great.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck down here for too long, just as Sunderland fans. Anyway, football. Sheffield Wednesday relegated from the Sky Bet Championship last season. Frantic game on Sky against Derby County, where it was sort of a bit like a game of basketball in many ways. 1 minute you were up, 1 minute you were down. But at the start of the season, you got a points deduction. Do you want to just tell us a bit about Chancery and what sort of happened for you guys to get all of that and why that happened?
Yeah, so obviously he came in quite a few years ago, and he came in with the pledge of getting us to the promised lands by the time we hit our 150th anniversary. And as we're able to see, that hasn't happened. There were plenty of ups and downs across the journey. Started really well, making playoffs the first 2 seasons, getting to Wembley, the heartache of losing at Wembley, and then losing to Yorkshire rivals Huddersfield on penalties. It was a torrid time. And then it got worse. We were spending stupid amounts of money on players that we didn't need. Chancery came, I can't remember the exact time frame, but he came out saying to fans, I can either put prices up and try and achieve promotion in X amount of years, or we can keep prices lower than what they were before, and we're just going to have to extend our goal. Obviously, everyone was thinking Premier League, so prices went up. So we were going from spending $39.99 on a football shirt to one season we were having to pay $59.99 for a cheap Sondico remake shirt. And a lot of fans felt alienated from that. So attendance has dropped and no one was buying anything in the club shop. And there's been a hashtag going around for a while of elephants in the Don due to the golden elephants he's put outside the South Stand. There's a lot of animosity towards him, which culminated in relegation. And it was a shocking time, I'm not going to lie. You make comment as being a big club. We are a big club by virtue of history and fan bases, but we've got to accept that where we are right now, we're not a massive club. we've got to be doing better than we are, and we're starting to see a little bit more of this year. The less we talk about last year, the better, in all honesty.
Now, it's to my understanding, Adam, that you guys had sort of schemes for season tickets regarding getting to the Premier League. Now, I've read about this online. And obviously you paid all the seasons up front with the aim for being in the Premier League, or you got your money back, or something along those sort of lines. Do you want to just tell us what that's about? Because our season tickets have just gone live for next season, and we have nothing. We've had God, I can't even speak. Nothing, anything like that. So just tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so that came in shortly after a lot of the spending started, and I think there's potential that Chancery and the board began to realise that it was going to be unsustainable. So they offered an incentive to fans. They offered a couple. So there was one, from what I remember, it was a 10-year season ticket. And I can't remember much about it, but basically, you paid a really small amount up front to ensure the club got a cash flow, and you got a 10-year season ticket. Or they offered like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I can't remember the exact, because I didn't come up on any of them. I just paid for my season ticket each year. But yeah, it was to try and get an inflow of cash, and it was a very short-term fix to try and sort a cash flow problem that, again, inevitably ended up snowballing into the financial difficulty we ended up in with financial fair play. Some people took up on it, but I didn't.
Yeah, obviously, that sort of culminated in a points deduction, and Derby County sort of showing that a points deduction really sets you back. But you were relegated. Now, I just wanted to ask you, really, because we've never been in the Championship. Well, not in my lifetime, anyway. Many viewers would have seen Lincoln in the Championship in the 60s and so forward. But I'm just curious to see the sort of the standard compared to the Championship in League One this season, because it goes around the media that League One is a very strong division this year. We've got like 9 ex-Premier League teams. There's a lot of money being spent. It's a really good standard of football these days, compared to the Championship, where you could probably put that tenfold, where there's about 25, maybe 23, 24 clubs that are spending big bucks. What's the quality like? Because you'd have seen, as a season ticket holder, Championship clubs come to Hillsborough and play football, and now you've seen League One clubs come to Hillsborough. What's the difference? Is there a massive difference, do you think?
I mean, there's obviously a league difference just due to the fact that they're in a lower division. It's a difficult one to comment on due to, you have teams when we were in the Championship like Birmingham City and Blackburn for the best part of the time we were in the Championship, and Middlesbrough, that were like your mid-table also-rans that had come to Hillsborough and might surprise you every now and then, wouldn't really do anything special. And then you'd have your really good sides, like you recently your Bournemouth and your Fulhams that blow you out of the water, and you think, wow, these are actually a really good side. The big thing with the Championship to League One was even the poor teams in the Championship were often able to come to your ground or when you went there, and obviously anyone can beat anyone, but they would sometimes just genuinely play better than you. And from experience from going to the games, I've not really found that in League One. Your better teams are very good. Rotherham this year, as much as I hate them because I'm a Wednesday fan, have been fantastic. We played them off the park at their place. They played us off at the park at our place, and the roles were reversed with scoreline. Wigan, as much as we did the double over them, they were actually a really, really good side. Oxford are probably the best side we've played this year, and they've done the double over us. But then your weaker sides, like, I don't like slagging off any teams, but financially they're going to be weaker. Morecambe and Fleetwood and Crewe, they haven't really got big money to spend. Do genuinely just look like poor sides. And I don't know if that's a lack of talent or poor management. I don't know, but especially like even Charlton, they came to us and they were probably the worst side I've seen. So I think that's the difference. The lower end sides are genuinely really bad. The middle to top sides are just as good as some of the middle also ran teams in the Championship.
It's interesting to see, because you've got Peterborough, who are massively struggling in the Championship at the minute. I mean, they did well against Man City last night, didn't they? But in terms of making that step up, it seems difficult for them, obviously with the spending in that league as well. Now, I'm going to ask you about season objectives, and I sort of said before we recorded, if you don't tell me playoffs, I think you're a bit of a nutcase. you guys are creeping up on them, aren't they? Because there was a time where you were like 10th, 11th, and your fan base were writing the season off. Oh, next year we're going to win the league, etc., etc. I saw that bundled on social media. But now there's a real sort of momentum gathering. You guys are picking up some good points. Wednesday going to finish in the playoffs, aren't they, Adam? Surely.
I think so. I think it would be a huge failure considering where we are now to miss out on the playoffs. I think if any Wednesday fan's objective at the start of the season wasn't automatics, they're lying to themselves. You can use the argument of, oh, they're going to do a Sunderland and be a big club and think they're going to batter everyone and just automatically get up. But that has to be your ambition when you come down. You've suffered a torrid year where you finished bottom of the league on the last day. You've got a complete squad overhaul and you've got a fresh feeling going into a new year. You want an automatics. Everyone chases that. I think we had to be realistic with the fact that even though we got our points deductions out of the way, we were still under a transfer embargo. So we couldn't spend any money on any sort of transfer fees or even loan fees. We were able to bring in players like Lee Gregory and George Byers, who were contracted to other clubs just because they released them for the purpose of us buying them with sell-on fees. So, we had to scrape the barrel with some of the signings we've gone for and poach and scratch where we can to try and get good players. So I think playoffs was a very, very achievable ambition. But like you say, at the start of the season, it weren't going well at all. There were a point where we had more draws than anything else. We couldn't hold on to wins. We just kept conceding goals at stupid times, like Wimbledon, Cheltenham, 2-0 up, end up drawing 2-2. We just didn't look like a side that could pull a win from anywhere. And I think it all changed. We got beat 5-0 by Sunderland, which was one of the worst performances I've seen from a Wednesday side while ever I've been alive. And then the next performance, even though we only lost 1-0 to Shrewsbury, was arguably worse. It just looked heartless. And I don't know what changed after that, but we've picked up really well. So, yeah, I think playoffs, 3rd, 4th is my hope. And
you'd have seen most teams in League One so far this year. Who's your picks for the top 6? I think Rotherham look a cert to go up automatically. I think Wigan are another one. MK Dons, I'd be surprised if they don't finish in the playoffs. But there's still sort of 3 spaces that are up for grabs, really, aren't they? Who are you thinking might finish in the top 6?
I think I'm going to sound big club mentality here again with us. I think there's only us and MK Dons that can challenge Wigan for that 2nd spot, but I'm being very ambitious. I think Wigan will go second. There's no chance that Rotherham are bottling it now. They're going up top. Wigan will get 2nd, and then it's between us, MK Dons, Oxford, and that last spot is open. I think us, Oxford, and MK Dons have got the other 3. That last spot will purely depend on the last 4 games. We've got Wycombe and Portsmouth in our last couple of games. They're a bit of an outsider, Portsmouth, but they could make a good run. Anyone can make a good run in this league. I don't think Sunderland have got it in them. I'm going to have to go Wycombe.
Fair enough. Now, your manager has got quite a bit of stick so far this season. I've seen quite a lot of vocal support for him and also a few Wednesday fans wanting him out. Darren Moore in, Darren Moore out. It's a bit of a big topic, isn't it, in South Yorkshire?
It is. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was Darren Moore out at the worst stage. Obviously, it's a very reactionary emotion, especially when you're coming out at Stadium of Light, having just been walked all over by a team that not 3 games ago we beat 3-0. To see that shambolic display that just looked like nobody gave a toss. It's hard to walk out and think that anything other than the manager's made a complete error and cock up in the choice of team. Players didn't look like they wanted to play for him, the amount of draws that we had. I was Darren Moore out. But I think when you look bigger picture and you look at the financial difficulty we were in, the players that we've had to bring in, the average age of the squad for the best part has gone up, which I didn't think could happen considering the old team that we had. We had to bring in Gregory, who was a good signing for this league, but was out of form, was on loan at a different club because he wasn't in favour. It's worked out really well for us. Marvin Johnson released, Jaden Brown released. They were willing to get rid of Byers at Swansea because they didn't think he was good enough. So a lot of the players we brought in were championship odd bit players that we threw together because they were who were available. And it's taken a long time for them to gel. But I think Darren Moore said in an interview a couple of times now, but especially after the Burton result the other night, I'm trying to change the mentality at this club. I don't know if you're aware. The result against Donny, where we beat them 3-1, was the first time we've come from behind to beat a team since 2016 away from home. Now, if that doesn't tell you that a mentality at a club is shocking, I don't know what does. And the fact that he's managed to get that turned round and get players who have gone from 2-0 up to 2-2 to then suddenly win 5-2, which a year ago would have lost 4-2. That's a massive change. So I'm going to have to say I'm on the fence. I want to see where we finish the season, and I'd like to give him the summer transfer window going into the next season before I make a call.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're sort of in a similar situation with our manager where there's vocal sort of support for him. There's also people saying, right, get Appleton out now, where, I mean, I've sort of made my thoughts clear on that on Twitter, which you can go and read yourselves. But key men then, we're going to move on to your key men. Now, obviously, we've said on air, you didn't think the one that I'd picked out was the right man. I went for Barry Bannan, which I think opposing media can be quite guilty into doing because he is the star man. He's the man who's played in the Championship. He was linked with Brentford in the summer. Really good player for this level. But you made another suggestion. Just let our viewers know what route you wanted to go down.
So I said that people should be aware of is Massimo Luongo. He doesn't appear to do all that much, so to speak. He's not your biggest stat man. He won't stand out for assists. He'll never stand out for goals. But the job that he does in that midfield is what creates the room for Bannan to be able to do his job. Now, if you've got a functioning midfield and a functioning defence, so Bannan can be freed up to have the movement with the ball that he uses well and utilises better than anyone else, then Bannan will play out of his skin. But if you're lacking that, he seems to lose confidence and tries to do the job of everyone else and kind of just gets lost in a game. Massimo Luongo at the side of Barry Bannan makes Barry Bannan the player that he is. Now, obviously, we've had Bannan for a long time. He's been a good player for a long time. He's not always had Luongo, but he's always had someone in that midfield to perform that role, be it Kieran Lee or Alex Lopez or now Luongo. So I think he's the main man to look out for. If you've watched the sort of player that he can produce on his day, he's the best centre mid in the league, in my opinion. Yeah,
very good for QPR, and I think it was Swindon before that, wasn't it? It was at Australian international as well, so really, really good calibre. But you got to tell us how good it is having a player like Barry Bannan in the form that Barry Bannan's in. Obviously, played really well at Doncaster, played really well on Tuesday night as you beat Burton 5-2, which has given me the shakes a little bit. We had this last year with Brennan Johnson, a really in-form player. Just let us know what it's like to have a really good creative midfielder in your side like Bannan.
I mean, it's scary sometimes being able to see the sort of vision that he has with some of his passing. The amount of times that he's back to the defender, he'll do a couple of turns and he'll get around the defender, and from nowhere he'll pick a pass to the other side of the pitch that everyone else is like, how on earth has he even seen that? Never mind pulled it off. It's brilliant to watch. Sometimes he can overplay it, and you can see he's predicting that the other players in the squad are as good as he is, which a lot of the time they aren't, unfortunately. And he'll pick a pass that other player can't read because they've either not got the ability to, or they're a bit behind behind the ball. But when everyone's clicking and Bannan's getting it working with everyone, it's wonderful. Like you said, the result yesterday, he scored 2 goals from outside the box. One of them, I've got no idea how he got that much bend on it. He must have had a banana on his shoe because it flew in like that, unreal. So, yeah, on his day, brilliant. I want to see more of him on his day.
And you just mentioned last night there, was it a deserved 3 points for Wednesday? Obviously, I assume you were there. Did you deserve it? Because I think Burton gave you quite a big scare, like they've done a few teams so far this year.
They did, yeah. I mean, they were definitely better last night than they were when we went to their place last month. It's quite short spans of time between playing them due to the game being rearranged. And at their place, they were pretty poor in all fairness, but we didn't have any attacking impetus because most of our strikers are injured. Well, the two clinical ones we've got. Yeah. And then when they came to our place, obviously they had Nias up front, who, regardless of the fact that he's not been picked up by another club, is 100% good enough for this league. And he did cause a few problems for us. So I think that was the big change for them. Going forward, they now had an outlet that our defenders had to look out for. And he did cause some problems for us, and he inevitably ended up scoring against us. But you could see when both teams were lined up against each other and passing it round, there was a definite quality difference. And that's no disrespect to Burton. No. They've just not got as much money, so they've not got as much attraction as a club like we have. And we played really well. I feel it was a deserved 3 points. Yeah.
It's one of those football manager transfers, isn't it? When you see Umar Nias sort of rock up at Burton Albion of all places, it just reminds me of a football manager. I also just wanted to pick you up on that, where you said it's surely about money that Sheffield Wednesday can attract players. We came to Wednesday in October. I was severely impressed with the numbers that you were there, the atmosphere. It was a really good day out from an away point of view. Talking about that game, 1-1, you guys went ahead sort of just into the second half, and then we sort of pulled it back. What were your thoughts on that game? It's a long time ago, I know.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago. From a footballing point of view, it was a decent game. It was a very bitter game in midfield, from what I remember. You do, again, completely from memory recollection, like you say, it was a while ago, but I have a distinct memory of Chris Maguire's shithousery tactics when he played at Wednesday. And I absolutely love the bloke. So to be able to see him playing at Hillsborough again was great. Even then, playing for you against us, he still tried to display a little bit of it. And as much as it was against us, I love it. But yeah, it was a bit of a bitty game. I'm expecting quite similar at your place. From the other sort of results that I've seen you've been able to drag out, you do seem to be able to wear teams down by just butchering them about, and we can't cope with teams like that. Crew tried to do that to us, and we were the better team on the day, but were it not for the fact that Gregory played really well that game, it could have been a whole different story. If you tried to play like you did then against us away from home, I'm not too sure that I'm that confident.
Yeah, just be grateful that you weren't on the Chris Maguire show when we played against Sunderland. I'm sure you would have seen the clips going around.
I loved it.
Yeah, really, really top guy, really good footballer. Are you surprised to see Lincoln in a relegation battle? Because obviously we got playoff final last year. You might have seen it on the telly. Probably our worst performance of the season, stereotypically. Are you surprised to see Lincoln sort of treading water in a way? The fact that we're down there, we don't think we're going to go down. It's a distinct possibility at this point in time. Are you shocked to see where we are?
First of all, I don't think you'll go down. There are far worse teams in this league than Lincoln. I from a neutral perspective, I don't think there's any possibility that you go down. I'm very surprised to see you down there, as you say, from how well you played last season to what's happened this season. I mean, I don't know if you've had any major ingoings or outgoings or managerial changes. I'm not aware. But it is unnerving to see how quickly things can change for a club from going playoffs all the way down to where you are. Because I'm correct in saying Oxford were playoffs last year. And they haven't struggled in the same vein. And I don't understand how that has happened so quickly for you. I don't want to see you. So
yeah, I think that's the £1 million question that Lincoln as a club are trying to answer. We'll move on to Saturday then. Really big crowd expecting a sellout at this moment in time. 4,000 Wednesday fans thought to be travelling to the city. Now, I would be a bit rude to dismiss the fact what happened sort of earlier on in the season with South Yorkshire Police. It all sort of kicked off a little bit in terms of supporters at the train station. What are you sort of expecting in terms of getting to Lincoln and the whole thing? Because obviously 4,000 people, there's half of them aren't going to have tickets, so it might be a bit of a problem for the police. And then eventually just move on to the pitch and what you're expecting from the game as well.
So unconfirmed rumours as a considerable Wednesday following in the home end, which will be interesting. I think that there's been 5 consecutive away days now where away fans following Wednesday have been kicked out of the home end towards the end of the game. I know for a fact it happened at Burton and Donny. The majority of the time, we tend to have well-behaved fans, so I can't really comment on what happened at the train station. I wasn't there. But I think it's reasonable to point out that every club has their group of undesirables that don't go for the football, that go for trouble. And I've never been one to be involved in that. People do what they want. I'm not going to judge anyone, but I don't see the point in it myself. I'm hoping for a really good day. You know, not to blow smoke up anyone's backsides, but I think Lincoln is one of my favourite cities to go drinking in. I tend to find that the people there are really friendly. Being in the armed forces, I've got a lot of friends in that area who go to the city all the time. I see. I'm personally really looking forward to it. I hope that, you know, any potential trouble doesn't take away any light from a really good day. So,
and on the pitch, if I could push you for a score prediction, what would you go for? Obviously, I told you before we came on that we have the worst home record in the division. You must be thinking that this is another 3 points to bolster your grip on the playoffs.
Head and heart are saying 2 very different things. Heart saying, yeah, massively. Wednesday should be winning this. I'm thinking 3-0. We're hopefully going to receive a return of Lee Gregory on Saturday for the first time in a long time. It's taken him just over a month to recover from a broken toe. So he should be back at least on the bench, which will be a big boost for us, because even though we've been scoring a lot of goals recently, not many of them have been coming from the front 2. They've been coming from midfield and elsewhere. So it'd be good to see him back. However, my head is saying, remember Sheffield Wednesday are Oxfam FC, and we like to give results to teams that are on bad runs. It's happened all too often for us. The amount of times our journalists Alex Miller and Dom Howson have posted on Twitter our previous records against these teams, and then we've lost 1-0. So, yeah, heart says 3-0 Wednesday, head says 1-0 Lincoln.
Now, this is normally where we would end the video, Adam, but you're a very special guest in the fact that you work with the Sheffield Wednesday Football Club Armed Forces. Obviously, you mentioned there your ex-armed forces. Just tell our listeners a little bit about the work that you guys do and what you're trying to achieve around the football, etc.
Well, I'm actually current armed force. I'm still serving myself. I'm in the Air Force. I've been in for just under 7 years now as an aircraft engineer. So our goal with the Armed Forces Supporters Group, as with our Twitter bio, is to generate and create a link between the armed forces, our local community, and the football club, to provide a support network for serving members of the armed forces and veterans, to always give somewhere and someone to talk to. Transitioning from the military to civvy street is an arduous task that can become quite stressful for certain people. Some people breeze through it, and more power to them. Fantastic. We want to see more of that. But I've got quite a few friends who have left the armed forces who are now really struggling to cope, be that financially because they're waiting for a new job, or socially. You know, the camaraderie and the banter that you can experience in the military is very different to civvy street. So our aim is to be able to give that outlet for people who have left, to be able to be involved once again in that sort of military banter sort of stuff, whilst also maintaining a professional side and being involved in charity and community outreach projects that the club will organise with us. We're already in discussion with the charitable arm of the club, in talks of potentially organising some future events, trying to get the tri-services stand put up at Owls in the Park in the summer to be able to get more armed forces involved and try and get some recruitment done. We recently signed the Armed Forces Covenant, which was no thanks to us. That's the club that's taken that impetus. We've just happened to come along at the right time, which is fantastic. And hopefully we can jump on that momentum and do some good for the community. Yeah,
some really good work there, Adam, that you're doing now. I'm sure many people respect and are massively appreciative of what you do. And that brings an end to this matchday preview. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really insightful, top man. Hopefully see you in Lincoln on Saturday, and I can buy you a beer or two. Thank everybody else for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We will see you next week for another League One preview. Thanks for watching.